Welcome to another performance clinic, Mastering Dynatrace Synthetics, getting started. Today with Philipp Kastner. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Andy.
Do you want to quickly say, I know you're technical product manager, but what your responsibilities are?
Yes, sure. So my responsibilities are mainly synthetics in Dynatrace. That's why I'm here. I'm with Dynatrace for around 4 years now. And also, as you will see maybe in the presentation, also a little bit RAM is also in the mix, basically.
Yeah, perfect. And so today's topic is synthetics getting started. It's the first performance clinic I've been doing on synthetics, and I will now cut my video stream and I will leave you with first I think we see some slides, and then the majority of the thing will be live demos of different topics. And again, everybody feel free to put any questions into the question feature. I will moderate them and I will find enough time to answer all of them. Take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Andy. So let's get started. Dynatrace Synthetics. So if you think about digital experience monitoring, we think of it basically of 3 pillars, right? So you have real user monitoring, where you get data for every user, and you have what I guess you know, we have recently announced a session replay, so you can do really a visual replay of the session, where you can then base UX improvements on it and so on. And then the third pillar, and it's a very important and one of the main ingredients for digital experience monitoring, is synthetic, and that's what this session today is about. Maybe I can already go to the next slide. So if you think about real user monitoring, what I hear often from customers is they are asking, okay, I have my APM solution, I have real user monitoring, why do I even need synthetics? And as I said, synthetic is still a main ingredient of digital experience monitoring or management strategy. And the main use cases for synthetic are availability monitoring. So really, do I know, is my application up or down? But not only if you think about the complete application, but really if you think about important transactions through your application, so important click paths through your application, where you do not have as much traffic as on your main side. Is it a checkout process, for example, a sign up and so on? It's crucial that you proactively monitor availability there. And the other thing is performance baseline. So really getting a baseline, synthetic is really good with this, because if you look at RAM data, you always have a distribution of performance data. If you're looking at synthetic data, it's still a distribution, to be honest, but not as broad as the RAM data. And you have this clean room environment where the synthetic is running from. And one important thing is also, if you look at the past a little bit, synthetic was the kind of the first thing you had for performance monitoring before there was real user monitoring. So a lot of use cases were solved with synthetic, which is not necessary maybe anymore today. So if you have a tool like Dynatrace, which you have full stack monitoring, where you have real user monitoring, synthetic has a very specific use cases for synthetic, and a lot of other use cases that you can solve with other parts of the tool. One other thing I get asked quite often is which browser does Dynatrace Synthetic support? We are only supporting Chrome, or we are only using Chrome for synthetics. And there's some reasoning behind. One is basically you get all other different browsers with the real user monitoring data. So there you get 5 different browsers with 10 different versions and so on. And in reality, it's a lot more actually, which you would not be able to cover with synthetics anyway. And the kind of thing why we focused on Chrome is it's still the most used browser, and we really want to keep it up to date. And if you remember, this is also a security thing. So we are running currently 72 in production on all our synthetic locations. So if you remember, there was Spectre and Meltdown last year. We reacted very quickly to update all our versions of Chrome on the public locations. So this is very important. Also, like if you find an issue with synthetic and then want to investigate it, it's really also important that the synthetic is running on a recent version, so that you're not hunting any ghost issues, basically. One other topic is, okay, the public locations. This is basically where the synthetic monitors are running from. we have currently 58 locations in Dynatrace, and we made there some changes. If you're familiar with Synthetic Classic or Gomez, back then we had locations hosted in various data centers, various ISPs, and we were going away from this because of multiple reasons. One is we want to provide you the best availability, the most stable data. So we are now using a multi-cloud approach. We have our locations deployed in AWS Azure and Alibaba. And one thing is that with the public locations, if you look at this image, basically, in the past we had almost daily outages. So there was some maintenance basically unannounced maintenance of different ISPs, and we did not have any control about these issues. We only could communicate it to you as a customer. And if you think about monitoring availability, one of the main use cases I mentioned, it's important that the locations are available 100%, right? So if you want to monitor availability, you need the tool that it's 100% available. So we were looking at kind of locations in the cloud, and we learned very fast. Even with our own monitoring, we see, okay, we almost had no outages. So basically going from this in January, where we say, okay, there was daily outages, during the last 12 months on Dynatrace Synthetic, there was only one synthetic public location outage, and this was because an outage in Asia, thunderstorm as far as I remember. So that was the only issue. So we are really providing the most stable locations to you. As I said, we have 58 locations all around the world, but we are aware we cannot cover every region of the world. Also, we are now dependent a little bit where those big cloud providers are putting their data centers. So we are having private synthetic locations as well. And this is, for one, it's really expanding the geographic reach, but it's also important to monitor your internal applications. You can already do this today with HTTP monitors. I will explain this in a minute. What is an HTTP monitor? And for browser monitors, we are currently running an early access program. It's very easy to deploy in private synthetic locations via our ActiveGate component.
I just want to jump in quickly because I see a lot of questions are coming in, and I want to address two right away. I think the first one you just answered, which was how do you test applications that are internal to the organization and cannot be accessed from the cloud?
So yes, exactly. So one thing is private synthetic location. One other thing you could basically do is to whitelist the IPs of our public locations. So you can see the IPs of the public location in the UI. You can fetch them via the API. So basically, you can whitelist those locations as well for those internal apps. Perfect.
Yeah, and obviously, the whole idea of installing an ActiveGate where you run your tests. And then the other question that just came in is, and you said it's an early access program right now for ClickPath testing. When do you think that will be available? When will it go out of early access for everybody to use?
Yeah, so we plan to have this available in calendar quarter 2 to beginning of 3, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Perfect.
So, but it should be soon.
Yeah, awesome. And then just a reminder, everyone, use the question feature in GoToWebinar, and I just throw any question over, and there's a lot of them. Some of them I will keep until the end.
Okay. Yeah, so those were some things where I think Dynatrace is unique, and I would really like to now use a lot of time for demoing really the synthetic part of Dynatrace. So I hope, Andy, can you see my dashboard now?
I can see your dashboard, yeah, looks good.
So where do I find synthetic is maybe the first thing you would ask. So if you go to the navigation there under the monitor section, there you see synthetic, and that's where Dynatrace Synthetic lives basically. So here you see I have already 17 synthetic monitors in this environment. And what you can do here is with the Create Synthetic Monitor button, you can create a new monitor. And here you have the choice between a browser monitor and an HTTP monitor. And then I think it's important to understand the difference here. So a browser monitor is something that really drives a complete browser. As I said, a Chrome, a really normal Chrome that you have installed. It's unmodified, it's not headless and so on. It's really a full browser if you create a browser monitor. it simulates basically a user session. And compared to an HTTP monitor, HTTP monitors are simple checks making really one HTTP request, not compared to a browser where you have more, maybe hundreds of HTTP requests in when loading a page. So HTTP monitor can do a GET request, a POST request, and so on. So let's focus on the browser monitors first. So if you click Create Browser Monitor, all you have to do, and so really creating a monitor is fast, you have to put in a URL. So let's use our Easy Travel demo page here. I will just paste it in. It automatically sets the name for you based on the URL. Let's change it to Easy1. And the other thing you can basically do here is choosing a device profile. So really here the default is a desktop device. It's our default resolution. We changed this, I think, quite recently. It's full HD. So every browser monitor that you create is by default run into a full HD resolution. You can do some bandwidth throttling, basically simulating a 4G network, simulating a Wi-Fi network. And then you have also different device profiles here. So you could say, okay, I want to simulate an iPhone 8. So really opening basically the web page via an iPhone 8, or there are some other devices, tablets, and so on. And maybe that's one thing to mention is we also have a custom options where you can set the resolution as you want and define this here. So let's get back to the desktop one. There are some additional options. I can maybe mention them later. But important here is the frequency. So how often is this synthetic monitor executed? Default here is 15 minutes. We have 5, 10, 30, and 60 minutes. So maybe that's one thing that I often hear from customers, why can I not run a monitor only once a day or something? And the reason for this is basically synthetic is also part of our AI problem detection and so on. And if you think about, we want to correlate this synthetic data to server-side data and so on, it's really a time frame of 1 day, then it's really hard to correlate it to anything. So it doesn't make a lot of sense then to do this correlation. So this is why we decided the 60 minutes is the maximum here. So what did I choose? 15 minutes, okay. And here you have the location. So this is a dev staging environment basically. So these are not the real locations, but I can show you quickly how that would look on a production environment. So here you can see, okay, these are all the 58 locations I mentioned. Here you can see them on a map. You could filter, for example, and say, okay, I want to see only locations in North America, and it's filtered down to those that we have in North America here. Okay, let's get back to the dev environment. So I will choose, okay, let's run this monitor from Hong Kong, North Virginia, and Oregon, for example. And then you have basically two options here, and this is one is creating a single URL monitor. So really this means, okay, it will only load the main page, so the URL I entered in the browser basically, or it says here install Dynatrace Recorder because I have not installed it yet. It's a Chrome extension to record a click path. So let's choose the first option for now. Here you get the quick summary. Okay, this is the URL monitor, this name, browser, resolution, minutes, and so on. Just click create and that's it. So basically now it's setting up the monitor in the background and you will get the first data points in some minutes basically. So this is the single URL monitor. Going back to the browser monitors, I just mentioned the click path and we have these Chrome extensions. I have deinstalled it to just show you how fast this is to really get started with the click path as well. So it's in the Chrome store. You click add a it will take, I don't know, some seconds basically. Then it shows up, it's added to Chrome. You can close this again and basically reload this page, and then you're ready to go to really monitor complex transaction or click path through your application. So let me copy the Easy Travel URL again, and I can really show you this quickly how that would look like. So the recording, and here maybe let's use an iPhone and choose some locations again. and here you now have the record click path up. So now what gets opened is basically you can already see it. This window simulates already the iPhone resolution. You see this easy trial page, it has a responsive design, so the responsive page is loaded in this mode, and you can really start, okay, typing in here. So for example, if I search for Paris, and you can already see in the background all I do here is recorded now as a click path. Do search, and okay, there are no packages found for Paris in this case, but that's fine. So whenever you're ready and you did the transaction to your page, you can just close this window. You will see in the background we automatically recorded this as a synthetic events. There are different types like navigating to a page. We also simulate mobile tabs here. So if I would have chosen the desktop profile, that would be a click. We have keystrokes and so on. And one thing that is, I would say, best practice is really after you recorded it, you can click here playback click path, and that would locally playback your click path. So I'm now not doing anything on my notebook, so this is really running in by itself. So it's basically simulating what I did, Paris, and you might see this flickering of the screen, and this is basically Chrome taking the screenshots in the right resolution, which would be the iPhone resolution. And then you see here, okay, it was successful, so then usually that's fine to create it. One thing I wanted to show you is basically you can expand all of those events, and there you will see some additional options related to this. One is you will see all those locator. I will not go into the details here, but this is basically how then Dynatrace identifies how to click, which elements to click. But one cool thing is for every event you can do a content validation. So you can say, okay, this event or step basically should only pass if a specific text shows up. You put this here, I don't know, for example, I put something in here, click add, so now this is added to your validation. And yeah, let's continue from here. Again, here the summary shows up. You just click create browser monitor, and as I showed this before, it's now setting up the monitor, and we can come back to it later when it's running. Okay, so then let's have a look at a monitor that's already running for some time. So this is this easy travel login click path basically, and this is the details page of a browser monitor that we will see, or click path. And as most of Dynatrace, the detail screen, you always have an infographic at the top, and what a synthetic monitoring shows is on the left side you see availability related data, and on the right side performance related data, and in the middle there is a screenshot of the page. You can even click this and really navigate through the different parts of the click path, so really what was executed to get an idea also visually what happened there. And here on the left side you see, okay, there was 3 locations. This was the availability during the phase, but I want to go a little bit into detail here on the right side. So what does this mean, 5.5 seconds visually complete for load actions? So we introduced, I think 1 year ago for real user monitoring, the concept of key performance metrics. So you can we defined a set of metrics that we think that makes most sense to look at performance-wise at your application, and we really have the same concept now also for synthetics. So you see visually complete is the default metric. We are splitting between load actions and XHR actions, and the reason for that is XHR actions have a very different profile than a complete page load. So when you load a page load can include XHR actions, but if you think of a single page application, usually a click triggers only one XHR and not a complete page load, and those are usually faster. So this is why we are creating 2 baselines for those kind of actions. And this is an average over the monitor in the time frame you have selected here. So I can, for example, go back to 7 days and look for it for 7 days. And here you already see the visually complete for the load action. So really for the initial page load is a lot higher than the continuous XHR actions that you have here. You can then here, this is the chart again, it's split between load and XHR. You can also click here all events. So here you see load and XHR combined. So again, the initial page load, which takes longer, and then the XHR, which is shorter. And going down here, there's a lot more hidden if you scroll down. So one thing is the synthetic events. and actions. So what I think this is also crucial to understand if you're working with browser monitors is what I just recorded is what we call in Dynatrace Synthetic events. So interactions that are simulated then via the playback, or that I did basically every click, every keystroke that we record. But if you think of a web application, not every interaction does really cause any network request basically. So if you switch here to show events with timing only, and these are now the actions, you can see, okay, there were before we had 8 events, so what 8 steps events I recorded, and if you switch here, you will see, okay, only 2 of them really trigger the network request, and these are where we have performance timings. And here, this is the initial page load. If you open this, you would see, and this maybe going back to this key performance metrics, this is really where you see, okay, we are capturing not only visually complete here, these are all the metrics we are capturing: time to first byte, we are capturing DOM interactive for this. So this is really now for this one event, for this one page load. And if we click on the submit, so this is basically a login, right? So as soon as I click on submit, an XHR for the login is triggered, and you will see, okay, for XHR you have different types of different set of metrics, not different types. So you also have visually complete time to first byte, and then only for the submit event.
Hey, Philipp, there's a couple of questions that actually just came
Sure.
in, and I'm not sure if you would cover these topics anyway, but let me ask you. The first question was, can we also get these timings for third-party tags or third-party content that is loaded? So do we have any metrics to analyze load times of, I would assume they talk about things like, the Facebook includes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
So currently, and maybe let me jump directly into it. So currently you can drill down to single executions, right? So this is now the execution from Hong Kong. And here, if you are now at this level of detail, you see a waterfall, okay? And in the waterfall now you can see, okay, first party, third party, so these are the first party requests. I guess maybe you can group it by type, for example. Mm-hmm. Here we don't have third party, but they would show up as third party resources. So you have them there. What we do not have currently is an overall metric on the monitor level where you can see, okay, as we have for RAM, for example, this is the baseline for the third party requests compared to the first party requests. But this is something we will work on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we know this makes sense, mm-hmm. but it will take a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I think the question here is they want to see the performance of the third-party domains over time.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the idea.
Yeah.
The other question that just came in is, and I think you just answered it, so what if there is a spike in page load time? Can we actually see the exact page that actually took that long? And I think you just showed it here.
Yeah, maybe that's a good thing to continue. So what I just did, maybe let me go back. So here we have this Analyze Performance button. It changes if you click on the availability. It says Analyze Availability, but let's go back to Performance. And here, this does not really have much spikes in there. But basically here what you see is this is long-term data at the top. So this is really something that Dynatrace more or less saves for forever. I can go back to 365 days and longer, and you will still see the line, but at some point it will say, okay, detailed data is only available for 30 days. And this is where we have all these waterfall details for 30 days. And here, if I would say, okay, this is the spike I want to analyze, I just click on here. And then it will load in this analyze range, it will load all the executions. And here it still shows all events. I can now switch also between events. So I could say, okay, I want to look at the page load, and I see the spike here. Let's switch to the submit. Yeah, and here I think I have to switch to XHR. I'm not sure why this was. So if you have all selected, mm-hmm. and you see in the XHR there's not the spike, so it's probably on the load action. And then I would drill down here. I have a table now of all the executions. I can sort this, and I would see, okay, there were 3 slow or slower than usual executions. I have one with 40 seconds, and then I can open it and really go into the waterfall details and see, okay, what really, maybe change the grouping, really what caused this long, or caused this spike, basically.
Yeah, and then we can here immediately see it's the image that took very long, first party resource all the way on the bottom.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I can expand this, and I would say, okay, there's this hero background picture, which, sorry, where the response took 33 seconds. So in this detail, also some other picture took long. So yeah, for example, if they are delivered via CDN, that would be something to investigate, right? And also.
I got another question, and I think it comes from somebody also as RAM. Will the synthetic test also collect RAM data, or will the synthetic user also show up in RAM?
Yes, also very good question, and I'm jumping a little bit in different directions here. But what you can see, and let me go back here to a 2-hour time frame, for example. What you can see is here there's a monitored application showing up. So if you're running a synthetic monitor against the application where you have the one agent installed, so you have RAM enabled, we automatically detect this on the synthetic side. And these metrics are coming from RAM, from real user monitoring from RAM, and I can just click on there, and then I will jump to the RAM part. And here you see basically all RAM data, and on the top we have a filter which is user type, and you can switch here between real users and synthetic. And if I now click on synthetic, you will see synthetic data only, for RAM synthetic data only. And if I would filter, for example, for real users, then I can filter out my real user data. But this is, as I mentioned at the beginning, the very unique thing. So this data we are collecting on the synthetic side, it's really collected with our JavaScript agent with the same technology. And this allows you to do some of this cool stuff. And also here, availability. This is now coming from the synthetic side. So you see there are 7 synthetic monitors. There is 86% availability. So something is failing. You can click in there and really see, okay, there is a monitor which is currently reporting 0%. You could expand it, jump over to that monitor and investigate the issue.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, and also maybe one more thing to that question is, if I go back to the login one, here you also have this analyze synthetic sessions, and if you're working already with RAM on Dynatrace, you know our user sessions view, and there is a filter to filter the user sessions for one specific browser monitor, so you can really look into those sessions from this browser monitor, same as you're used to. For normal users here, you would see immediately that, okay, this is coming from synthetic, this was the synthetic monitor where it was running from, as you're used to analyzing RAM data as well. Okay, yeah, and I think I need to hurry up a little bit. There's a lot to show in the synthetic area.
There's also a lot of questions, that's why it's okay.
Yeah. So maybe to finish with the browser monitor stuff, what else do we have here? So here you see a world map. These are the 3 locations configured for the browser monitor. And one very cool thing I think here is you can show in the background the RAM data. So you see your real user monitoring data directly kind of augmented with the synthetic data. So you would see, okay, where is my real user monitor traffic coming from? That would also help you to maybe choose your synthetic locations. Yeah, and then here are some properties, and you can jump into the settings. I will leave this for now to cover the HTTP monitoring part a little bit. So why would you like to set up HTTP monitors? So what you can do here is HTTP requests, as I said, you can have post, put, delete, and so on. You can set a user agent. You can choose locations, and what the difference you would see here is these are the private locations now. So HTTP monitors are currently only available from the private locations. Reason for that is they're usually used for API monitoring, also internal APIs and so on. So this is why you need to set up a private locations. What I mentioned is quite easy and straightforward, and I think we might have some time in the advanced session to really show how that would work and how easy this is. And I will not create one now, but I will jump into one that is already set up here, so you can filter here between the different monitor types. And so you see, okay, they are monitoring the EasyTurtle API. And let me click on one. So what is, again, here it's similar. You have availability, you have the response time of the request. So this is really only one request now, a GET request against the API. You can, if you go into the settings now, you can also do response validation. You can say, okay, pass only if something in the response is showing up. And if we look at this, so if I would open this URL, so this is kind of a request to the recommendation. So this is kind of giving you a JSON from the application, and you could, for example, have a validation, okay, that something always should show up in that JSON, and you would monitor that. You see, okay, what are the HTTP status code of those executions? So everything 400, 500 would show up in red here. You see the latest status code of the executions. Again, this is all the location. So this one is running from my notebook, for example, at this moment. You have one thing that is different for HTTP monitors is you can specify a 1 minute and 2 minute frequency, so you can run them more often as they are really those simple HTTP checks there. And you can also assign them again to RAM applications.
One question that came in on HTTP monitors, and I know there's a capability for click paths where you can use JavaScript. Is there also something available like this for HTTP monitors? Because use case here is they need to make a request first to get an API token and then actually test the API. How would you cover this use case? Would it be with HTTP monitors or would it be with a browser click path?
Yeah. So this is a perfect use case for HTTP monitors. You could not do it right now, but we are working on what we call multi-request HTTP monitors. So this is really chaining those HTTP requests together. And there you are also able to really run scripts, again, with JavaScript. So you can have a post and pre-script, basically. So you can do something before the request or after the request. And that would be exactly for the use case where you have to do a first request, parse the token out of the first response, and then pass it on to the continuous request. And maybe the next question would be then, okay, when are HTTP, multi-request HTTP monitors coming? Also soon, so I think same time frame as the private locations first version. I think we can also definitely show already something in the next performance clinic in the advanced session about this. So that would definitely make sense.
Cool.
Maybe one also cool thing, and because this is Dynatrace, right? So I want to show you something. So this HTTP request is, let me go here, is running against a service that is monitored with one agent. And I hope I can find it now. Yeah, that's the REST service. So, and out of the box, the service now detects, okay, there is one HTTP monitor running against this Tomcat, basically, and it links it together. And this is really, so you can see, okay, you can then filter on requests on the service that are coming from this HTTP monitor. So really going in both directions, basically, here. It's pretty cool. Okay, and as you mentioned it, and I forgot this a little bit on the browser monitor path. So I have one. So let me set this management zone again for EasyTravel. So I have one that simulates a sign-up process, and so this is our old EasyTravel UI here, and it simulates a user sign-up. And usually, if you have a user sign-up, the email can only be used once. And if I look at the click path, so now I'm here in the settings for the recorded click path. Again, I could playback it locally, but what I want to look here is really how does this work? How is always a different email entered? And we have here a JavaScript event. So you can do custom JavaScript in your click paths, which makes them very powerful because you have the complete JavaScript sandbox from Chrome available. You can here, so I just used a date here, basically, and generated a random email address. You can put it in there, and you can just type in here your JavaScript. You have code highlighting. We have an API where you can have log messages, where you can set a value which you can later retrieve in the same click path. So this is really powerful, and I think I will add a link to the slides from one of my blog posts where it goes in a little bit more details if you want to know how you can do those complex click paths, right?
That's cool. So you can actually, with get and set value, you can kind of store data in the context of the browser click path, and then you reuse it later on.
Exactly.
That's
So
awesome,
so
yeah.
this is really what here, for example, it fetches a username, a random username from an API for the sign-up process, and you can see with the API set value, it stores it as first name, and later on, where it fills out the first name, I think, let me check here, it then sets it basically, it gets the value for the first name, so you can really have pass variables across those events.
That's perfect. That's really cool.
Okay, what else? So one thing, so there's really a lot to show, but one thing I wanted to show is, as I mentioned, okay, we have Dynatrace AI and RAM and so on, so this is all connected. I want to show you one problem, and I searched for a link here. Let me copy this. It's also in the same environment. So this is basically one problem that the Dynatrace AI detected, and it's detected on the real user side, but it's also, as you can see here in the visual resolution path, you also have the synthetic monitor on top here. So you can really see, okay, the synthetic monitor was also involved. We know, okay, it also failed. You can see here that the two impacted application, one is coming from the browser monitor, one is the easy travel web application. And I guess you might have already seen this, but this is really our playback, how this problem was detected, and you can see, okay, now the synthetic monitor also detected it, and it really kind of connects this together. And let me jump back to the problem, and if you go to the browser monitor path here, if you click this, you're directly going to the details page, as we saw before. The time frame is automatically set where we saw this problem. You can see, okay, this was unavailable here. And again, you can drill in here with analyze availability. And it should open exactly. So you would see here that the failed executions, and let me set the analyzers range here in the middle. And what you would see here, okay, it failed with 500 internal server error. And this is also very cool. We are taking screenshots and inspect it, and this is the failure run. So you would see, okay, you can really see it from a visual side as well. Okay, this is HTTP 500, and you can see, okay, this is how it usually looks. It's the credit card information page, the payment page. You can even do a visual difference. So what you can see here is really the pink part means, okay, this is different from the expected. So here it's very obvious what is different, but in some cases, if there's only a button missing or something, it's cool to detect this. And maybe one last thing I want to show. Not sure if we have a lot more question, Andy.
There's a couple of questions, yeah, but I'll keep it to the end.
So where was this? I think we have here. So where we have, let me close this problem analyze view. Again, it would not be Dynatrace if we see, okay, here we have a server error where on the front-end side not much is happening, right? So there's one request which is returning 500 here, which you could see. But you can really, because this is monitored by the one agent, you can jump to the server side. So you're really going to the pure path, looking at the service, and go as much in detail as you want, really switching to the code level where you would see really the kind of exceptions, so the stack trace of the exception that this synthetic monitor caused.
That's pretty powerful stuff, I'll tell you.
It is, and I think, as I mentioned, some of the synthetic stuff, I think the really cool thing is so synthetic is part of Dynatrace from the beginning. We are doing a lot of cool stuff recently, but as it's really built to the core, we have all those connections with services, with RAM, and so on. So.
Pretty good. Anything about APIs? I think maybe just covering briefly. I know I want to go into Q&A mode soon.
Yeah. So there are APIs for configuring the synthetic monitors. So really creating one, retrieving the configuration. There are also APIs for the metrics, so you can retrieve those. I can show you quickly where you would find this. This is in the settings, right? So we have this integration Dynatrace API. This is where you would find all the Dynatrace APIs. And if you go to the API Explorer, it's a tiny link here, but this is really great stuff. So in the API Explorer, you can see all the different endpoints, and we have synthetic monitors here. So these are all the endpoints for managing monitors. So you can retrieve a list of monitors, you can retrieve a specific monitor, you can create with the post a monitor, and then in the time series section, you would then find all the time series, basically all the data connected to those monitors as well.
I think this is great. We talked about this in preparation because you have these APIs to create and manage them. You can fully build this into your deployment strategy. That means if you deploy a new feature, you can automatically also deploy the monitor. If you are taking a feature away or have a maintenance something, you can just as part of the deployment tell Dynatrace, hey, stop this monitor right now because we don't need it or something. This can be fully automated.
Exactly. So you're completely right, Andy. So this is really how we imagine that those APIs are used, is really automating this. Dynatrace, there's a lot of talk about automation. I think for synthetic, it's maybe easy to forget, but you can also automate your synthetic approach, and it's crucial because you are really decreasing the maintenance that you need for your synthetic monitors. Okay, not sure how we are with time.
Yeah, I think if we maybe just quickly cover the rest of the slides and then go into Q&A, because there's still a couple of things that are coming in, questions that came in.
Sure. So let me jump over here.
Yeah, and as you can see in the slides will be uploaded. All the screenshots of the demo that we showed, they're all also in there.
So some kind of action items out of this performance clinic is, if you want to try this out, you can sign up for a trial. Just go follow this link basically to the Dynatrace SaaS trial. Set up your first synthetic monitor. You saw how easy this is. It's really one click and you're done waiting for the results to come in. And you can watch a recording of this session. So this will be uploaded, as Andy mentioned, to YouTube, also Dynatrace University. By the way, if you're already a Dynatrace customer, you don't need to sign up for the trial. You just need to click on this synthetic menu entry and get started. And as we said, so there will be a follow-up session on advanced concepts. So there we will go a little bit more into detail. There's a lot to cover. I think we will also base this a little bit on your question, your feedback we get to this session. So if you're interested in a specific parts, please let us know.
Pretty cool. Can you just quickly walk through the next slide? As always, there's a lot of resources out there. Philipp already mentioned a couple of those. University, make sure you also check out the coffee breaks and the power demos. It's also a podcast that we run. So there's a lot of events and a lot of resources where you can get additional information. And next slide, please. There's a big event coming up. Well, there's always events coming up. But the one that should be very interesting for everyone is May 21st to 23rd, our Perform event in Barcelona. So our European version of Perform that we had in Vegas earlier this year, and also make sure to check out all the other regional events. Cool. All right, Philipp. So let's turn the video cameras back on because I turned yours actually off earlier. And there are a couple of questions. I answered some of those already, but I want to highlight them. The first question that I answered was around, can you actually pull out a synthetic data, like the time series, and you actually mentioned it earlier, the time series API.
One maybe additional thing, so there is custom charting capability in Dynatrace, cool. So you can all those metrics use in the custom chart, and even in the custom charting, if you want to maybe visualize the data in your way, you can download it as CSV, so you can get it there as well directly from the UI.
That's pretty cool. That's also another performance clinic that we did around custom charting and dashboarding. Can you do me a favor? Can you open up your browser or go back to your browser? Sure. Because the answer that I gave him, this person, is in your, you see where it says read the API documentation, there's a second link on that page. And the APIs, it's great that we have a Swagger UI to test it out, but also in here, and if you go to the time series API, then metrics definitions, yeah, exactly. And there I believe all the way on the bottom, there's a list of all the metrics that are available.
Exactly,
right?
so let me just search synthetic.
Yeah. And then
so here you would see all the metrics that are available for synthetic. So
exactly, yeah.
HTTP monitor metrics, and then further down the browser monitor metrics.
Yeah. Okay, so then we already talked about the ActiveGate, the support of browser click paths on ActiveGate. That's coming. The metrics are. The next question that came up is how could we create a private last mile network? And the answer that I gave, well, you have the ActiveGates. So that means you can install the ActiveGates in different locations.
Exactly, yeah, you could do that. And maybe one other thing, to different perspective how to think about this is also really maybe using RAM for this use case. It depends on always what you would like to do, but private last mile was always about really having a lot of different locations, right? So if you get this from RAM and then you get it really from every user, every location, that would also help.
Yeah. Do me quickly a favor. Luis is asking, can you switch back to the slides with the links, with all the links? I think it's this one here, yeah. Just make it bigger so that he can take a screenshot. Exactly. Next question, private ActiveGates, will they also be available in Windows or are they only available in Linux?
They will be available. I think I have to lie about the version, but I think it's right about now where we released the ActiveGate support for. So ActiveGate is supported for Windows, but really the private synthetic location. So this is something we just are in the process of releasing. So you will be able to run your HTTP monitors from Windows ActiveGate as well. For browser monitors, so the private synthetic location from Windows for browser monitors will come a little bit later.
Paolo is asking, his UI looks slightly different than yours. He's on 166. I guess you are on a dev tenant.
That's a dev tenant, and very good question. So what for new customers, or if you sign up for the Dynatrace SaaS trial, you would already see the UI I showed today. For existing customers, this will come with 167. So next version. I think you said he's on 166.
166, yeah.
So next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week the stuff that Philipp showed is 166.
Good thing I did not mention that, but I really wanted to already show the new stuff here.
Yeah, that's cool. Now that's another interesting one. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but will the ActiveGate for private synthetic locations also be available as a container? It means just run it within, let's say, Kubernetes or anywhere else.
Currently, that's not planned.
Okay, yeah. Then there's, coming back to the question we had earlier from Sam, who asked, can we somehow chart the performance metrics for certain third-party domains? Now, as synthetic tests also show up on RAM, right? Basically, we also monitor the RAM data. Can't we there analyze the domains, the third-party domains?
Yeah. So if you really have the RAM application as well, you would see it there. Yeah. So that's something where this would show up. I can maybe also quickly show it. It will be cool. So if we go to the Easy Travel application, and if we filter here, the only thing you have to know or are aware of, so this is all synthetic traffic. So it's really only your synthetic monitors that you set up, but it could be multiple, right? But I think overall you are anyway interested in. So if you click here on the resources, you will see third party, you see the end resources, and then you can switch here to third party, and then you would really see here the load time. If you make the time frame maybe a little bit bigger over 30 days, you would have this performance data down to this. And here you can already see this is synthetic data because you always have the same amount of actions per minute basically, and that would be then your baseline.
Yeah. So Sam, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's one way how you can get the answers to your question right now. But you also said something like this is coming also if you just use synthetic on an app that doesn't have RAM enabled.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's coming.
Cool. Then what I like about Jonas, he said, thanks guys, during your session I was able to set up a ClickPath monitoring for our customer's environment, login included, Dynamite. See you in Barcelona. See you in Barcelona, sounds good.
See you.
Yeah. Then Tito, I had a follow-up question to yours because Tito was asking, can we push synthetic data from Dynatrace? And I wasn't 100% sure how you meant it. You can pull the data out from Dynatrace.
Exactly.
And you can also actually push data from external monitoring tools into Dynatrace, right? If you have external synthetic tests.
Yes, so I did not show that. But what you can do, so if you have, I don't know, another synthetic tool, if you have some self-made tooling basically where you are doing some checks, there is an API where you can push, I think I have this on the slides maybe somewhere, where you can push synthetic data into Dynatrace, and where is it? Here, exactly. So it will show up. Where did it go?
Yeah, sometimes it's a little tricky with PowerPoint.
Here this is. So this is something where, for example, here we are importing a synthetic data from Uptime Robot, free synthetic tool, and it will show up here as you have the performance charts, you have availability, and the really cool thing is you can also push problems into Dynatrace, and our AI would pick up those issues. So if you have a failing monitor, our AI would pick up this synthetic data and really correlate it to the complete environment. So this is one thing, and the other thing why you would like to do is really have don't have silos, some data there, but really all the data you will want to look at in Dynatrace.
Next question is, how do you handle iframes in browser click path? Will I be able to differentiate what's in the iframe and what's not in the iframe?
Yeah, so iframes are a little bit tricky. So currently you can record click paths with iframes. It's not possible. The local playback won't work. You will get a warning and saying, okay, the local playback might not work for the iframe content. So we are improving there. We are currently looking into this. And one thing is also the performance data from the iframe is currently not available, so we are looking into this. We run into an issue there actually on the Chrome side, so really with our injection mechanism. So we are working with Chrome on the Chromium project to kind of solve this issue, so this is ongoing.
Cool, so we're contributing to Chromium.
Yep, that's the idea.
Cool. The next question from Alex, even though I believe it was kind of answered a little bit, can variables be called to be used in events like keystrokes, so parameters that we, and I guess you can do this all through JavaScript, right?
So very good question. So currently you need to get the variable in the JavaScript event, but I think, was it Alex? Right?
Alex, yeah.
Alex. So Alex, what we are releasing in a couple of sprints, couple of versions is, and I think that's exactly what you asked, is basically if I have a JavaScript event and I set the variable, you will be then able to use it as a kind of placeholder here in the keystroke event. So this is not yet possible, but you will then type something like curly brackets and say, okay, my variable, and then you will be able to use those predefined events. So this makes a lot of sense, and I completely get this question. So this is something we are already working on. It's almost finished, so we will have it soon.
Cool. Then you also already answered the question about for HDB monitors, when will JavaScript be available? So that's also coming. Last question, and I want to close it with this one is, and even though the question was already asked earlier, but they may want to have a more specific answer. When do you expect private location support to be available on Windows?
I don't have a specific date yet, but I can follow up on this question to give maybe a little bit more detailed answer on this. So maybe that's also, so there are two product managers working on the synthetic part. So Jan, my colleague, is doing that private synthetic location stuff, so I will follow up with him on the question.
If somebody wants to follow up, obviously they have your name, Philipp Kastner, also answers.dynatrace.com. I guess a lot of, do you also have like a forum discussion on there where you show what's coming up and where people can give feedback, or what's the best way?
So in general, the product ideas forum, I think if you have questions about this, or if you have some ideas around product ideas, you can also see what is in there. You can vote on ideas that are already there. For example, on the synthetic area, you can filter on the synthetic text there. We do not have a kind of sticky one with all the synthetic topics. That might be a good idea.
Yeah. Now really the last one, because I think it's a repeat because I may forgot it earlier. Is it possible to see the page when visual complete response time was reported to show the page to the stakeholders? So the way I read this question, first of all, we are capturing visual complete and all the other metrics for every single test run, for every single synthetic run. And then what you showed earlier, when you charted it over time, you actually saw the results. But we have the result for every individual run, and I think you showed it earlier.
Yes, we have this, but I guess maybe the question is coming from how would I see this on a screenshot, right? So how did because the screenshot is not taken at the time of visually complete, but it's really taken kind of at the end of every event. Oh, yeah. And basically really seeing how this page renders is something I get and would be helpful. It's not there yet, but I mentioned session replay at the beginning. So we are bringing session replay also to Synthetic, and there you will be then able to replay your Synthetic session, and we will also kind of really simulate how long it took to load the resources, so you can really see how did it load basically.
I think Rahul was saying kind of screenshot on error, if that's SCEOE. But yeah, I think visual replay is perfect.
Yeah, I mean screenshot on error is already there. So I showed this with the HTTP 500 error, so it's taken for every step. But what you don't see on the screenshot is how the page was constructed over time. So how did the page load itself? Yeah,
but that's visual replay then.
Exactly.
That's a perfect combination.
Yeah.
Okay. Philipp, thank you. We'll see you again on May 15th for the next performance clinic, more advanced topics. And if anyone has questions or ideas on in which direction you should go for the advanced session, then just ping us. You have both of our names, and you can also use answers.dynatrace.com for that. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
And thanks, Denise, for recording.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.